Check, check, check.
Siggity check, check. All right, we Gucci. We're back. We're alive.
we did not perish.
Yeah, there was, we're good. Weird tornado warning interrupted one of our episodes.
Tornadoes, sirens,
But
and
we're
all.
still here.
And we managed to survive.
So did you guys have tornado drills when you were a kid here?
Yes.
Oh, that's a real thing?
Yeah.
They don't do them now, though. Since I got here, I've never seen one.
Well,
Engineer's shaking his head yes, like he's doing something else. What does that mean? What does this mean?
Yes, he had tornado drills, is what he was saying.
So in between the fucking time that I got here in 2000 till now, when this guy's going to school, they all of a sudden are doing tornado drills again?
Yeah, but you weren't in elementary school and they were doing...
Oh, so they don't do drills in high school? I don't understand.
They do. He said they do. Maybe you
Again, I've never done one.
Maybe you went to the wrong school and they're just like, fuck it. Just let God cleanse this one.
Okay. Well, so what's really interesting about tornado drills, at least as far as I've seen, I've done a few in a school like in the country, but they just sit in a big hallway, huh?
Yes.
And put your head down and pray.
Pretty much.
That sounds very similar to the flash drills.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, there is that.
Okay.
But we're back.
Alive and kicking.
And moving forwards. So we're not going to pick up where we left off. We're just going to start brand new.
Right. For this episode.
Fresh, clean plate.
We had a correspondence from the Bianca Butters, and she said she asked about cloning Joe Skelly.
Yes.
So let's start with that. Joe Skelly.
No.
No clone.
No
He's
clone.
a no-go on the clone.
No, because I don't think it's...
Do you think it's against God?
No, I don't think that. I just think it's not going to work the way we think it's going to work.
You think that it's going to be the age-old copy of a copy of a copy gets fucked up?
Eventually, yes. If you keep making copies of the copy, right?
And it's not because you're afraid that the copy will be more successful than you.
No, it's not like...
Just saying.
It's not like you who said
what
you
I
were
was
going to get pissed. You get pissed if my clone's way better than me.
Dude's going to come out and be like, hey, I'm going to the
superstar?
Olympics.
Right.
Like, what? What are you talking about? Right?
You've had no drive. I'm taking over from here.
Right.
And
like, wait a minute. I've been driving just in the wrong direction.
I'm going to be superior. So we were kind of talking about it off the mic, and I'm going to touch bases on this. They're recently coming to the conclusion of such a thing as cellular memory, right?
Okay.
Then the question I had is, and what they're saying about cellular memory is this, and it's been proven to be existent in examples, people who had heart transplants, right? All of a sudden, the donor is starting to have memories of things that they've never...
is real.
Yeah. They've never experienced before, and then they'll go to the host family from the donor and be like, did this person do this, this, and this? And they're like, yes. So my thing is that we've conquered, or we're almost to the point of completely conquering the genome sequence for humans.
Meaning
right?
what?
The DNA. Figuring out the DNA.
They'll just be able to produce it.
Right.
Like a record.
Like we
Print
can
off a bunch of copies.
We can splice DNA. We can do all kinds of stuff, right?
Okay.
I don't think
Splice never goes right.
No.
Did you see the movie Splice?
No.
It didn't end well for any of those people.
It didn't end well. Okay.
No.
So my thing is we haven't conquered the understanding of the brain yet, or neural pathways.
Nope. Right.
Or how any of that works.
That's supposed to be one of the hardest whole things, right? About the human leftover.
Right. And just because I have your DNA doesn't mean that I'm replicating all that cellular memory that was passed to you by your forefathers and foremothers, right? So if you made a clone, it seems to me that it would be missing half the information because it didn't have all that cellular memory that helped form who you are.
Okay. But
so
if
it seems to me that
those memories, so you're saying because, I get what you're saying.
I'm saying that clone's already missing half the information.
Just because we built the skeleton doesn't mean it's going to have the same vibe.
Right.
Well, but if this whole, and the heart thing is different because you're actually putting a piece of that person into the new body. Right. So here's an interesting question. If you got the heart of somebody who was a famous musician and all of a sudden had their memories, does that mean you'll be able to do what they can do?
I don't know.
Like you're like,
I mean, we don't have enough understanding.
You're like,
of that.
I had this memory of me playing the piano. Let me try this song, and then you can play the song.
That would be amazing.
That would be fucking weird.
That'd be crazy as shit. The question is, Well, the statement is, I don't think we know enough about it yet, right?
Right.
People talk about, oh, I have this past life experience. You know, people talk about their past lives. I was this and this in a past life. What if it wasn't your past life? What if it was a memory that was passed down to you from your great, 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 great grandmother?
Right.
Right? That imprinting, right?
I'll tell you what, I bet there's some memories from my grandmother I don't want. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I'm just
there's
putting
some
it out
things
there.
I don't want to see, Grandmama.
I mean, so here's the next question. I mean, right now, my understanding would be if they cloned, right, they would have to start with the embryo and just, it would have to probably be put into a surrogate for the birthing, right? They're not birthing it out of a bathtub.
Oh, are we talking about cloning and then growing a kid up?
Right. I mean, you're not getting.
I thought we were talking about just straight carbon copies.
You're not going to dump a full-grown clone out of a tank.
So it's not Multiplicity and Judge Dredd.
Right.
Oh.
So what I'm saying is, I was way off. They clone, right? And then
that's a whole other fucking person then. So what you're saying makes sense. I mean, that person is going to have to grow up, have their own experiences.
They might be a genetic make of you, but that doesn't make it you.
Like Boba Fett.
Right. The only way that they could make a genetic clone with the identical memories of you is if they found a way to somehow download all of your memory.
To harness the soul.
And put it into another clone.
That's not a thing. That's fucking wild.
But then you get people who will tell you that clone isn't a real person.
Right.
Because they don't have a soul.
Like the Tin Man doesn't have a heart.
So here's the question.
We got to get off the movie kick.
Right. Get off. I mean, my thing is this. If you have clones, will they have the same rights as everybody else?
You into the civil right thing there, Joe Skelly?
Well, is a clone a person?
Is a robot a person?
No.
A clone would be like a robot.
Would it?
It was blueprinted and then created. That's what a robot is.
Okay.
Blueprint it, create
what makes a clone not a person?
I don't know. I never met one.
You're not even playing devil's advocate here.
I'm just saying.
You're just shutting shit down.
I'm just saying, if I met one, why would he not be a person?
How would you know if you met a clone?
Could a clone fall in love?
Why wouldn't it, right? If it's capable of memory and everything else.
What was that one we were talking about with the tattoos in the mouth where they were doing that?
That was that Schwarzenegger movie, right?
What were they making clones of him for?
It was probably some military thing.
Oh.
Right? And they could just clone you and spin you back up if you got killed, right? He wasn't
good at painting the house, so the wife sent him off to get a different one or something.
Right, no. But the thing is, and the only way they knew they were cloned is if they pulled down their lip and there was a tattoo on the inside of their lip.
I don't remember if this is that same movie, but there's one where they argue about it, and the dude's like, I'm not the clone, you're the clone. And he's like, no, you're the clone. And then they look at the marking and find out the one who thought he was not the clone is the clone type of deal.
Right.
Is that in the same movie or is that a different one?
It might be the same one.
Clone movies are weird.
Yeah. So the question again, is a clone a person? If that clone was birthed and raised and matured into adulthood,
could you call a robot a person who had AI and looked like a human?
Remember, hold on, but remember when they argued that test tube babies wouldn't be real people, right?
Right.
And all that was fixing people who suffered from infertility, right?
Okay.
That was just getting all the cells to divide and do the thing under a laboratory, and then they would implant it into the woman or into a surrogate, and they would be born, and they turned out to be, they're genetically your material and your wife's material, right? Or however that went, or your donor's material.
So what about the Chinese? You'd mentioned that before, off and on mic.
That the Chinese are mentioned last year that they were fielding genetically modified soldiers.
And they started this when?
We don't know when they started this. I'm just saying that's what they said.
Right.
So my thought is this. If they are of combat age, we'll say 18.
Okay.
This modification had to happen 18 years ago.
Right.
Or 19 years ago. Right? Because you got a year of 9 months of pregnancy.
We're talking about growing them from the bottom up.
From the bottom up.
Okay.
Right? Maybe there was genetic splicing. That doesn't make them clones. It just means that they spliced certain DNA sequences together that they found to be favorable. And they didn't, and let's be honest, how many failures were there?
Oh, good Lord.
Until that point.
Right.
Right?
So, yeah, I mean, and if you clone somebody, though,
But isn't that what the Nazis were trying to do?
Super soldier it up.
They were trying to super soldier it up.
Stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is, they didn't have the genetic splicing. They were just trying to do it through natural birthing means, like we do with dogs, right?
That's fucking weird.
Think about it, right? You want to create a breeded dog, right?
Right.
Let's say you want a miniature schnauzer.
Humans
you take all the runts of all the litters and you breed them together and together and together until you breed it down, right?
Right.
It's the same thing the Nazis were doing with their eugenics program, right? They were taking all the qualities that they wanted from their super soldiers and they're making the men and the woman have babies to create that next thing.
No shit.
But that doesn't mean it'll always come out that way because there are also recessive traits, right? Like, the woman and the guy could have had recessive traits 3 times back in their family that only show up every 5th generation.
Right.
And neither one of them knew it. Now you get this.
So 2 dark-haired people produce a blonde-haired, blue-eyed little baby.
Right.
On accident.
Or whatever it might be.
Not accident, but chance, pure lottery.
So if the Chinese are doing it, and they're doing genetic splicing to create their super soldiers, right? Or their genetically modified soldiers.
So splicing would be the only way to get the good genetics, because I was going to bring up the fact that if you're cloning someone directly, you're also getting the negative of their gene pool.
For sure.
And you'd want to cut that out. That's where splicing comes in.
Right.
So, now we're not even talking about just cloning a copy. Now you're talking about just fucking being God.
Well, here's the other problem.
That kind of shit.
Here's the other problem. Let's say you can modify the embryo, right?
Okay.
To get rid of all the negative traits.
Okay.
Create the perfect person, right? Well, don't those negative traits help also society keep your ability to resist certain diseases or resist this or resist that?
Do you think so?
Or, and at some point in time, if you breed all that, then all of a sudden something comes along, some disease comes along that you are no longer
the first time you see it, it knocks you down.
It kills everybody. I mean, there's a lot of, and you're right, you're playing God at this point.
There's a scene, and I hate to reference movies, but I don't know anything about cloning. I don't study that shit at all. There's a scene in the new Jurassic Park where he talks about that because they make they're doing the obvious clone for the dinosaurs. He makes a bunch of bugs, locusts.
But they didn't have enough dinosaur DNA to do it, so they had to mix in other DNA.
Right. And that's what they're doing with this one, I think. They cut in these locusts. They make these big, giant locusts. But the point of it is this guy comes back and says, look, I can create something that'll kill all of these bugs because they haven't been exposed to it. We'll expose them, and then it'll just go through and wipe them all.
Right.
Which is very interesting because you could essentially do that. Not even just cloning. You do that with people. People have been trying to do that forever. Chemical warfare type stuff. Getting people sick with diseases, et cetera, et cetera.
Is cloning a good idea?
I don't know.
What if you could clone?
I don't think I have enough experience.
What if you could clone a heart?
So now we're talking about just body parts.
All right, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Let's say
a little Repo Man action.
You've got heart disease. You need a new heart. They can regrow a brand new heart with your DNA so that your body no longer
doesn't reject it.
And you don't have to be on anti-rejection medication for the rest of your life, which causes a ton of negative side effects.
That's a thing?
Oh, yeah. After you've received an organ from somebody, they have to put you on anti-rejection medication for the rest of your life.
No way.
Oh, yes.
I did not know that.
Oh, yes. And it causes a slew of problems.
That's so scary.
Right. So let's say you need a new liver, but then they use your own DNA. When's your liver, let's say you were...
Your body wouldn't know the difference.
Your body wouldn't know the difference, but here's the problem. All right, let's go back to the heart. You need a new heart because you have heart disease.
Okay.
But heart disease was in your genetic makeup.
And so you've just produced another heart that's going to create it again.
So wouldn't you have to splice that heart to get rid of that?
Right.
And do we know enough? Do we have enough technology? Do we know enough to be able to do that?
This is some Mr. Potato Head shit.
It's a wild subject
idea,
right? This isn't like altered carbon, right? Where they can pop out a full size clone of you in 24 hours flat.
I thought we were talking about that kind of shit.
We're not near that, but I mean, maybe one day. Let's say.
Well, how long did it take him to clone the sheep?
I think they had to do it the way they didn't grow it full size. They had to start from a baby sheep.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that clone was just a carbon copy.
No, they're cloning dogs right now on a regular basis.
What the fuck?
Yeah. You get a pet dog that's near the end of its life, right?
What?
They're cloning. They could take your dog and clone your dog, and you'll have an identical twin dog. And when your dog dies, you still have your same dog. Looks like it, acts like it.
And you can buy this?
They're doing it in Korea.
I thought they were eating the dogs in Korea.
No, they're doing this in Korea. Absolutely.
I am so confused right now. I'm not sure what to say. So,
think about it. Altered Carbon, the TV show. The concept was we can grow a full-size clone of you.
Right.
Download your memories into a chip and put
Right.
that chip into the new clone, and then that clone is supposed to be you.
I don't know about that.
Because they're saying that your memories are what make you up and your mannerisms. If they could find a way to store all your memories and mannerisms into a data file.
That's a whole nother fucking thing. It's
And
like some Johnny Mnemonic shit.
And load that data file into the identical clone of you. Does that clone become you?
Are you even an individual at that point?
There we go. See, this is where shit gets weird, right?
Because
So what makes you you?
Supposed to be your uniqueness, the individuality. It'll steal your identity, and I don't mean your social.
But if that uniqueness is,
if there's a clone of you, then I mean, are you really? Now you're at this point, you're just another pair of Reeboks.
Okay, so here's the next question along the lines of this. People, if you would look at the religious aspect of it, they say, well, a clone doesn't have a soul. Well, why doesn't a clone have a soul?
Right.
If the clone is birthed, does it have a soul? Rather than coming out of a tank?
I want to clone Bianca Butters.
No. No. Listen,
you just said no.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm getting back to this. The subject is like
we're too deep into this.
It's like there are all these sci-fi shows where they're talking about clones, right? And
Right.
It's these sci-fi shows.
Of course.
And even in those sci-fi shows, the characters refer to the clones as tanks.
Huh.
Because they weren't birthed and they came out of a tank. So now you've created a new class of citizenry.
I mean, in Star Wars, they had no issue making all those clones.
This is true.
And they just sent them out to war.
But that's what they were for.
Right. Well, where'd all those clones go? That's just a crazy concept. I don't know. I might at this point be called a conservative
on the cloning,
in the sense where I'm like, I don't know if that's
maybe cloning is not a good idea. What about cloning organs?
I mean, that's what I was just gonna say too. Then you got to look at the whole Repo Man idea. You know, would you? But in that, you know, they were doing artificial, so it was straight metal livers.
Let's just say,
so if you're talking about
in a lab,
right.
I can. Prime example, there's a thing called a ghost heart. You ever heard of a ghost heart?
No.
Ghost heart, they took a human heart. Essentially, they removed it. They bleached it of all its genetic material.
Oh.
So it's just the muscle structure, right?
Okay.
And all the massive structures of the heart. And the concept is I can take your stem cells and implant your stem cells into that blank canvas, and it'll reprogram it and become your heart.
Stem cells is another thing that I'm not really savvy on. That's really crazy.
Stem cells essentially is your DNA, right? Just using your DNA as a primer to...
They're using stem cell stuff all over the place these days, it seems like.
For sure.
There was a 5-minute uprising against that.
Right.
That seems to have disappeared. Apparently
because
there's so many people got paid.
So look, the thing is there's so many amazing things that have the possibility that they can do with your DNA to help you as an individual. Right?
Right, sure.
Fix your problems, whatever your medical problems are, right?
Yeah.
You got a bad liver, we replace your liver with your own liver. Bad heart, we replace your heart with your own heart.
I would like to skip to the end where they don't have to replace it. They just give you the magic potion so it fixes itself.
Oh, you mean like Star Wars where they put you in the thing and it just fixes you?
You just come out, you're good to go.
Or they got
Starship
nanobots.
Troopers, they did it. Nanobots would be good.
Yeah, nanobots inject you with nanobots.
But then I'd worried the nanobots would never leave.
They'll never leave your body.
And that's like having a butthole camera just stuck to you.
Right, and then somebody could hack those nanobots.
Right. Control you whenever they want.
Fuck all that. You're not putting nanobots in
You wake up the next day and you're like in a whole other country.
holding a bloody knife, wondering how you got in that hotel room.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not down with that.
Right. So again,
cloning is a crazy topic because we are not that far off from the tech. If even these certain governments are willing to admit, well, they have genetically modified humans.
So I have a theory on the whole government versus what we know. So I think the government's always ahead of us because they're not telling us shit.
Right.
So yeah, they've been around doing something, quote unquote, for a long time, and then we're just now hearing about it. That's what that is. They've got to be at least a couple of decades ahead of us.
No, for sure.
Because they're not doing something.
Computer companies. The computers that computer companies use in their own companies are decades ahead of what's for sale.
Right. Yeah, because they have all the experimental stuff, they have all the prototype stuff, so they're going to be, the term is cutting edge, to have all that. So yeah, I think they're probably cloning motherfuckers.
So in some secret lab somewhere?
That's not good.
Right.
This is some like doom shit.
Right. I mean, like, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Well, it depends on what the purpose of the clone is, right?
If you follow Daddy Elon and you take to his thing where he believes that we have a under population issue, then maybe it'll be helpful for us.
Do you want a population of clones?
I don't want a population of anything. I want an ant farm, maybe.
Here's my question. Then you got a clone running around that looks like you, acts like you. Well, let's say they have your memories somehow, right? They look like you, act like you.
That's so
running
crazy.
Around, and then that clone starts having babies.
That's so scary.
Are those babies your babies too?
I'm not paying that child support. I will not do that. If I wasn't there for the 30-second bang effect, I'm not fucking going to be there for the rest of it.
30-second bang effect. That's about right.
Yeah. That's not. That's a fucking no. You're going too deep here, Joe Skelly.
All right. What about chimeras? You ever heard of a chimera?
The monster?
No.
Oh.
Human chimeras.
The bloodsuckers?
No. People that in utero consume their own twins.
What the fuck did you just say to me? What'd you just say?
People who are in utero who consume their own twins.
Use English.
Their twin becomes part of them. While in...
Oh, those ones. Dude, so I've heard about that and I think I just learned about that within the last 2 years.
You can see them in public too. You know how you can see them?
The fuck did you just...
You look at their eyes. Google it.
No.
Yeah, you can tell in their eyes. In their iris. They have a split section that has a different color in their iris.
That can't be true for all of them.
Maybe not all of them, but some of them. How about the person that was tested? What was it? One person had two sets of DNA.
I'm glad Nigel's not here.
There's a case where some person had two sets of DNA.
I saw an Instagram video of a cat with two eyeballs in one socket. I saw that the other day. That was weird.
It sounds like a failed cloning experiment to me.
As weird as I want to get. Wait a minute. So you're saying that these chimera people can be identified? I gotta look something.
That's like one way.
Really?
Yeah. And you're stumped. Back to the Google for look. And you were the one who's like, I don't want them to think we're stupid because we're always on Google.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, where do I go to at this point? Where do I go?
We need a geneticist on the show.
Where the fuck are we going to find that?
Did you find your answer on the camera?
It gave me all kinds of weird shit, and I'm not reading that. This is I feel like this is such a thick topic.
Oh, it's super thick. That's why I didn't want to talk about it just on our little 20-minute, live drop, because there's so much depth to this cloning thing.
I feel like this could go on forever.
It could go on for a really long time because there's so many different aspects, right?
Let me ask
you got to look at the religious aspect of it, right? You have to look at the moral aspect.
What religious? Well, here's one. So let's go down those walkways, since that's like one of the only things I can think of right now. What religious aspect would allow that?
A clone?
Sure.
There might be a lot that don't allow it.
Right.
Because they say it goes against nature.
Right. So I don't personally know of any religion that would think a clone would be okay. Maybe the Buddhists would be like, cool, man. Cool.
Right.
Now go seek enlightenment.
Right. But
It seems like cloning would be something that would go against God.
Gave us free will.
Okay.
And gave us the ability to have the intelligence to get to this point. Why would then God be like, no?
Because he wants to see how stupid you are. Isn't that the whole thing? I mean, that's what that is, right?
Is it?
I think so.
Would it be a sin to create a clone?
Let's ask the real question. Are you ready, Joe Skelly? I've got the real one.
I'm ready.
Do you believe that there are already human clones walking around amongst us?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm willing to hazard a guess that some crazy organizations out there have been going against the law outside.
So talking private science, private companies.
Private or government,
or left-wing government.
Not even left-wing, or government.
No,
agencies.
I meant like the physical left-wing, like they're over there off to the side. Nobody's looking.
Yeah.
Not leftist left-wing, but
setting up some black science,
right? Like
site.
The CIA, some rogue motherfuckers, like, let's see if we can make some clones. Let's fund this,
right? In a country that doesn't,
right,
isn't part of the treaties.
We've learned definitely that our country likes to set up facilities in other countries.
Yep.
Right.
But then again, there are countries that don't give a fuck and wouldn't follow the rules anyway, and they're going to do whatever they want anyhow.
So,
is it possible at this point that there are human clones walking around? I would think it's more likely that there are, considering we've already cloned sheep, we've already cloned dogs, we've already cloned other pets. What's the next step?
I didn't know we were cloning pets.
Yes.
Can we buy those?
You can.
How do we do that? We got to mail order bride that motherfucker?
No, you got to go to the lab in like Korea.
I'm not doing that.
Okay.
So there's that.
Then that's out.
Yeah. That just violates a bunch of rules, like going to Korea. So,
I mean, I'm more likely to believe that there are clones walking around right now. Maybe not out in public, right? Maybe in some of these facilities, or I mean, how many shows have we watched where the government's raised these children to be assassins and all those other plot lines and all that other stuff?
Right.
Wouldn't you do that with a clone? Right? Does a clone have real parents?
No, not really. Probably not. This is like such a in-depth thing. It's crazy to think about.
This is. Yes. So to answer your question, do I think there are clones out there? If the Chinese government willingly admitted that they genetically modified babies to be for combat purposes,
right,
and that they're in the military currently, what aren't they admitting to?
I'm not sure.
I mean, this is crazy.
Right.
But I mean, there are a lot of people like, oh, cloning's evil, but we could use a whole platoon of clone soldiers, because if the clone soldiers die, who cares, right?
Which is fucked up.
It is fucked up.
Because
we'll just make more.
Yeah, that's wild. That wouldn't last long because you know exactly what's going to happen with the human mind. It's going to become self-aware.
What if they are self-aware, but they don't know they're clones?
But then you're going to hide that from them the whole time and just make them soldiers? So you're saying doing this in a sneaky sort of way, where we don't even talk to them or tell them what they are?
No, listen.
Okay.
You take the clone embryo, implant it in a woman. Woman gives birth. It's raised in a nursery by scientists. It's raised its whole life to be the perfect soldier, and all it knows is soldiering.
Yeah, that's some psycho shit.
Right? You could probably even get rid of things like empathy,
which we know you can do. Any trait can be carved out of a person for the most part. You can break anybody.
So you raise these clones without empathy, without this. They're the perfect combat machine. Other than the fact that they're flesh and blood and they bleed and die.
Which we know they can handle that too now with all the cool armor they have coming out.
Right. I mean, you know why we don't have androids? Or we don't have cyborgs?
Why is that?
Because they haven't mastered the tech of marrying robotics to a human body without it rejecting it.
Right.
But what if they're able to design the tech that your body doesn't reject, next thing you know, we'll be having cyborgs.
Half human, half robot.
Yeah.
Terminator.
Or people who are willingly exchanging body parts for cybernetic parts.
Right. Yeah, I've been talking about those with people.
Oh, let's say I cut your arm off and I give you
a super arm.
Super arm.
The Bionic Man shit.
Would you take it?
Are you asking me, Joe Skelly?
I'm asking you. Would you
take
take that
if
super
you knew
arm?
It was gonna work.
You would do it?
I'd fuck with it.
All right.
Some weird shit.
But that, I mean, this is where all these subjects go to. And
Right.
and look, we're on the cusp of it now, right? We're on the cusp of figuring out the neural networks. Daddy Elon with Neuralink, right? That's the first step.
Yeah. It is integrating the computer to the user interface and allowing you to be able to pick your options and shit. And it is ironic that Daddy Elon is doing that, considering he's such a big proponent against
AI.
Right.
But he said you're already a cyborg.
Right, because you have a phone attached to you at all times.
Right.
May as well stick it in there and get it better. Stick it in that prison wallet.
So the question then becomes is, do we go, will tech go both directions? Well, how about this? How about they create clones for deep space exploration? Because, well, if something happens to them, no big deal. They're a clone.
Well, the fact that it...
So which lends credence that clones have less rights and less... They're treated as subhuman.
Do you think
if they're going to willingly expose them to more dangerous things because, oh, well, it's a clone?
Do you think that they could make it so that way they could raise those clones without compassion and without empathy and all that other shit? Because you'd need instructors for that.
Oh, I'm sure there are people.
And if the instructors, quote unquote, demonstrated any kind of empathy, you'd be fucked.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Sociopaths?
No, I know, but this one's going on. Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line. It's a fine discipline. It's a hard discipline to work with. Is all I'm trying to say. Right? Because you teach somebody how to say thank you, you're teaching them gratitude. So now you're talking about injecting those feelings of humanity back into them again. So how does that work?
Don't do that.
And even if we just removed everything, so
think about you're programmed as a kid.
Right, but the thing about a soldier is, do you think that soldier can't enjoy or like certain things? So let's say you have training in the water, but this particular soldier loves water. Well, he's developed a personality now. You can't stop that. That's the thing about the human, right? You cannot stop it. Now, what way it develops is a whole other subject, because we got weirdos like Dahmer and Ramirez and all this other shit. But even in a controlled environment like that, I don't think it would be possible to completely remove the human effect for any kind of emotion.
You would have to be in a 100% sterile environment.
Right, exactly. And that's got to be damn near impossible to do. Unless, again, you treated it like a working dog. And in which case, I guess it's not that crazy to think about. There's a huge correlation, at least in my opinion, doing all the dog research and studying that I've done, and mixed with the human stuff and psychology, there's a huge thing that ties all that together. It's scary.
This is
what Johnny doesn't know can't hurt him. Right.
We're on the cusp of this tech. We're on the cusp of it now.
Well, somebody else might already have it. Supposedly.
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly.
I mean, a clone, in order for your clone, I guess the other thing is, what is the purpose for your clone? Why would you want to clone somebody?
Right.
Why?
Because there's mad scientists in the world. That's the biggest thing I think
beyond, all right, beyond the mad scientists.
Or you talk about for us as the consumer?
What would be the purpose of a clone?
Multiplicity, do your chores while you hang out.
Okay, so then again, you're not treating them as a human.
Right. I'm not trying to do that, but I mean, that's
you're treating them as an object or a possession.
Right. Well, there's going to be that one guy. There's going to be that one guy that needs a clone because he needs a friend.
Okay.
Is he treating him like an object or possession? You get a little freaky. So Joe Skelly's stance on the clones is no. He doesn't want to be cloned.
Maybe clone an organ if I need an organ or something like that, but not an entire clone of me. Again, there are too many sci-fi movies out there. Prime example, Altered Carbon, and the one with Schwarzenegger and all these other things. But those were, here was the other problem in Altered Carbon. Rich guy clones himself, has 15 clones on standby in case something happens to his body. And they just kept taking the chip out, putting it in the new clone. Now the guy's like 600 years old.
Right.
And his wealth just keeps growing and growing and growing. So now you have a class.
Well, that's way down the line of if the clones even survive and make it.
Right. Now you have an entire class of people who are gajillionaires who run the entire planet or the solar system or wherever we are at that point in time.
Joe Skelly,
is that fair to the person on the bottom end of the totem pole?
Probably not. Which class are we a part of, Joe Skelly?
Not that.
Not that one.
I'm part of class of so and so. Go Wolverines!
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Not cloning though.
No, I'm out on the clone because I think nothing good comes from that. You take away natural selection, you take away the things that make you unique.
We have taken away natural selection. We've eliminated a huge portion of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've
so
made
has
shit
it made the gene pool weaker or stronger?
Fuck weaker. It's weaker. Everybody knows that.
Okay.
And if you're ignoring that, I mean, you're stupid as fuck. There's too much evidence that shows that societies, the easier the society, the softer the people. That is that is alone natural selection. And we've tried to eliminate as much as we can, but you still see people getting fucked up because they don't pay attention. Like the old boy pushing the fucking broomstick into the wood chipper and then using his foot to kick out the stuff that's stuck. Like you can't you can't stop that. That's going to happen.
Why do we have so many vaccines? Because people don't have natural immunities to things.
Right.
And maybe if the strong are you saying if the strong had survived, maybe the strong would have had those immunities? And therefore we've made the genetic pool weaker by not having natural immunity.
I'm not trying
getting
to be
rid
a
of natural
dick,
immunity.
And I'm not saying I believe in it, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but look at how many people survive in the world that in other cultures
100 years ago wouldn't have made it.
They wouldn't have even tried.
Right.
They wouldn't have even let them live. They would have been like, well, there's no way you're going to survive because you can't hunt or gather. Bye. And I'm using that as a very broad stroke term.
Or how many babies survive
right
getting out of being infants that probably wouldn't have survived previously.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're hooking how many babies now, and I've seen this firsthand, where they'll just say, oh, we think there's something might be wrong. Let's put them in an incubator for the next week. The baby comes right out and they go right to an incubator and they just sit in there to make sure they're okay. That kid might have not survived back in the day. That is, man, Jessica, this is supposed to be a comedy podcast. We're going deep and dark with this.
Way deep and dark.
Right. I just got to keep referencing the Keaton movie and working on that shit so we can go with that.
Right.
But, let us know what you think. BaysBasement.com. Write the show.
Shout out to all the people who write on a regular basis.
We love you.
You know who you are.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
Yes, all of it. It's my favorite. Joe Skelly knows who's my favorite. So we'll just leave it at that. She eats corn like a typewriter. I'm good. We're in the right boat. 30 97 seconds. Bays Boys podcast. Enjoy.